look at that gleaming fleet of bikes waiting to be ridden. All those are Royal Enfield's Continental GT. We've come to London to ride it, the roots I guess of Royal Enfield, and we're here at an iconic location. This is the Ace Cafe London, a place known for being a biker's hangout from the 50s and 60s and continues to be one today. An exciting place to start the ride of an exciting new bike. It was in the early 1900s, about 200 kilometers to the northwest of London at a place called Redditch, where the Royal Enfield magic was first made. And the Continental GT isn't just a pretty sounding name. It's a legacy from a wild, wild world of the 60s.
The only speed limits in this country at that time were in town. There's no speed limits on other roads. This machine was 110, if I remember correctly, 110 mile an hour bike.
I approached the managing director at the time, suggested that we ought to do things like putting a more racy looking petrol tank, clip-on bars, etc. And he said, right, build one up.
The origins of the Royal Enfield Continental GT 250, not only was it the best handling, but it was the fastest and lightest, and I think best looking available in the UK.
So, the Continental GT of 2013 has a lot to live up to. Soon I got a chance to sample what the Continental could do. There were choked city roads to wriggle through, fast open motorways to blast along, and wet and winding country roads. Every kilometer in the saddle highlighted the beauty of the Continental GT. So we've got a taste of what all the Continental GT can do. So let's go through all of it one by one. Now this motor has a bigger bore, which means bigger pistons, new rings, it has bigger intake valves, it has a bigger throttle body, it has a lighter flywheel, a reprogrammed ECU, all of which is aimed to increase performance and especially its performance in the higher rev range. But don't hold your breath because power hasn't increased drastically. In fact, it is only up by about 2 bhp to 29.1 bhp, while torque has increased to 4.5 kilograms. So when it comes to performance, the Continental GT does have more punch, but not startlingly more. To really cruise on the Continental GT, you should stick to the 100 kph mark, but when it comes to the revs and piling them on, yes, this motorcycle does have a bit more punch. You can haul it to well over 130 kilometers an hour as indicated on the clocks, what we managed out on the motorway, but you do get a fair amount of vibes there. Now on the motorway, I was doing 120 kilometers an hour for well over 60 kilometers. The motorcycle could hold it, but I was a bit worried, and when I stopped I looked at the engine to look for, but the engine was spotless, no oil leaks. Very impressive. The 5-speed gearbox shifts gears when you want it to, but the feel of the lever could be better. It needs to be more precise and more positive. The clutch also could be a bit lighter. What really makes the Continental GT shine has to be the way it handles. This is very easy for me to say. This is the best handling Royal Enfield I've ridden till date. But jokes aside, this has a nice dual cradle frame, feels very stiff. The chassis has been designed by Harris Performance of UK, and it has been outfitted with the best of equipment. Now the Continental GT is the flagship for Royal Enfield, and fittingly this is coming with new tech and new specs. For instance, the disc brakes are from Brembo and these are floating discs. They have steel braided hoses for better feel, and the rim looks like a regular sport rim, right? But this is actually an aluminum alloy rim to save on weight. That's not all. You look at the tires, these are 18-inch Pirelli Sport Demons. And on top of that, we have 41mm front forks now. And then there is the seating position. Now this is meant to be a sporty motorcycle, so no surprises, you have clip-on handlebars. And because of this long tank, you have to kind of lean forward onto them. It's sporty, and what helps it along the way is of course the rear set foot pegs, which just makes it a very nice committed riding position, but at the same time it isn't backbreaking. Thanks to the new chassis, when you find a winding road, the Conti will sweep through bends smoothly. I was also happy to note that the rear brake pedal doesn't grind into the tarmac when going through right-handers. What was obvious though, that on the wet roads the Pirelli tyres were very sure-footed, and the bite from the Brembo brakes was progressive. Allied to a light steering, this Royal Enfield is going to be a fun motorcycle to have even on a winding road. Now for a sporty motorcycle, no surprises, ride quality is firm, but it isn't harsh. The rear feels alright, but the front did tend to funk through potholes. Now even in India, the Continental GT is going to be offered with just a small seat as standard. If you want a longer seat with space for a pillion, that's going to be extra. And these small mirrors, which look so great and are really quite small looking but work quite well, will be offered as an accessory, a must-have according to me. Even that upswept Rorty exhaust is an aftermarket option. But then there are beautiful touches as standard, like the fuel filler cap and the red stitching for the seat, to just make this Continental seem like a very well turned out machine. The Continental GT of 2013 is beautiful from every angle. The Continental GT is an important motorcycle for Royal Enfield. After all, it is trying to woo a global audience.
A bike like this allows you to have a lot of fun. It's an absolutely fantastic motorcycle, beautifully engineered, and I'm sure it's going to be a major success worldwide. It's deemed to be an Indian motorcycle. So it's taking coals to Newcastle or selling ice to the Eskimos, but the Indians have brought British motorcycling back to Britain.
I'm very glad that it's an Indian brand. The cafe racer scene in the United States is exploding. Here you have a box stock, ready off the showroom floor, cool, custom cafe bike. This is the look we're looking for.
So the Eicher Group and Royal Enfield can be proud of the Continental GT and all the work that has gone into it.
I can say with confidence that the bikes that we're producing out of our new plant, with the backdrop of all the engineering we've done on the product, all the engineering we've done at our suppliers and in our plants, that these bikes are really up to the mark. They're as good as anything else in the market. But then of course, any bike development that we do now or in the future is going to be something that's going to be available globally. So we don't make a bike for a different market. We don't make a quality for a different market. Everything we do has got a global appeal to it.
The Continental GT isn't a cheap proposition in the European markets. It costs about £5,200 in the UK, which is about 5.2 lakh rupees. But when it comes to India, you can expect much better value. The Continental GT should come in at an estimated 2 lakh rupees.
We are not a cheap product, and we don't want to be positioned as one, and we don't want to sell on price as well. If a kid wants the most bang for the buck, this is not the right bike to get.
Just to make it absolutely clear, the Continental GT isn't Royal Enfield's sports bike. What it is a hugely tempting motorcycle, which will make you smile whether you're in the saddle or just watching it go by. This retro machine brims with charm, and its mechanicals give the kind of performance that would give its cafe racer genes something to be proud of. However, Indian enthusiasts will have to wait a bit longer because the Continental GT will hit Indian roads only towards the end of 2013.